No matter how you try to justify it, there's no getting around it. William Afton is stupid.
Okay, but like, why would William Afton take his kid to a place full of animatronics that he designed to eat kids?
Let's see if he is still just as stupid and easily gullible as I remember.
Bro's just ignorant. So yeah, he is kind of stupid.
I've gone on and on about how stupid William Afton is.
Why does nobody talk about the fact that William Afton is such a dumbass?
What would have happened if William Afton was actually smart?
They think me to be an imbecile. What zeal! Such maculated petition.
A quick apology for the mediocre enunciation, low mic quality and rushed AC design. That will all hopefully be fixed at a later date. Thank you, and carry on now. No business of yours here. Recently, Five Nights at Freddy's has reached the point where it is now half my age.
And we finally received that film we've been waiting almost a decade for. Though I won't be mentioning it because I don't care, and it's basically the Silver Eyes all over again.
And what could be a more fitting way to look back upon our glorious past than with a discussion over the intellect of its main villain? The discussion over the intellect of its main villain. Welcome. My name is William, and I will be discussing the most important person with that name in my life. And ironically enough, it isn't myself. I will preface this by saying that this is purely for the fun of it, and that I do not truly condemn anyone from the clips previously shown, nor harbour any real resentment for their claims, despite how much my husband would most definitely want me to. William Afton, the former main villain of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, and a staple in several internet circles, has been a major influence on both my online life and my real life. I have consumed so much content for this man, written my own fanfiction for him, and am still in the process of that one. I have been married to him. Wait! It is safe to say that I have seen many opinions about this man, and am familiar with his status in the overall internet. And prior to a few weeks ago, I was fully under the impression that most people, whether they like him, despise him, or the secret third thing, thought of William Afton's intelligence and cunning as exemplary, or at least some iota above average. However, I've recently fallen down a rabbit hole of my own, pun decidedly intended, which led to my discovery that a large amount of the community sees him as intellectually bankrupt. I am, in no uncertain terms, bemused. To clarify, not morally bankrupt, but an idiot, essentially. Am I the only one who's shocked, or did I miss something in the Silver Eyes trilogy? Seriously, guys, what the hell? Now, you may think that this video will be an attempt at bashing people who hate William, stopping people from making jokes about FNaF's writing, or some simp defending his reprehensible action. And while you're not entirely wrong on that last part, I am fully aware of how horrific many of his actions were. I cannot in good conscience defend most of his actions morally, but that is not the point of this video. This video is to give my thoughts on a character in one of my favourite pieces of fiction, and to help us discuss some of the major reasons why we even bother bashing him as a character. At the end of this video, I will detail a special request for any people who are familiar with either side of this argument, and any online individuals who push either option. Thank you, and on with the show.
Members of the jury, the Crown Court of Virtualia calls the trial to commence. Is the prosecution ready? Ready. Is the defense ready? Most certainly, my lordship. Will the members of the jury be ready? Ready. And is the defendant, Mr. William Afton, indeed ready? Indeed, I am. Does the jury swear to faithfully try the verdict? I swear by the evidence. All are sworn in, my lordship. The trial of William Afton may now commence. All rise.
Hail, Afton!
Today, Mr. Afton, you are being tried on the charges of idiocy, stupidity, and a deficiency in intelligence. Is that clear? Or do I have to spell that out for you? That is most understood. My lordship, I'm loath to rise, but I do believe this line of questioning has begun to tread into territories of inadmissible manners, or worse yet, dare I say, areas of impertinent questioning to puppet my client. You seem to be right about that, Mr. Angels. Mr. Ted do well to try and stay on point, would you? Of course, my lordship. Continuing from prior to my interruption, this is contrary to Section 17 of the Valid Character Act of 2004, and you place allegations of said crimes by my clients, each of whom has a specific charge laid against you. These charges are as follows. Your own inventions killed 2 of your own children in ways preventable by even the smallest regard for reason. Your partner, one Mr. Henry Emily, constructed animatronics of higher quality and at a lower cost than you managed. Your death, despite your being chased by literal ghosts, was entirely preventable had you not won the suit. Your invention, co-patented with Mr. Henry Emily, was an unrealistic, dangerously designed, and idiotic construct. And, in your time known as the animatronic known as Springtrap, you were lured away and fooled by audio clips of an animatronic which you made. Each of these allegedly happened in the canon FNaF universe between the years 2014 and 2023. Thank you, Mr. Tatarondi. Mr. Angels, you may now proceed with a short statement of your issues with this case. Of course, my lordship. It does appear that each of these charges contains about as many holes as a game theory. My lordship, I am reluctant to stand on account of my colleague's relationship to its client, but I would ask that it refrain from any of this attracting of unnecessary matters and irrelevant individuals to our attention. Mr. Angels? Yes, my lordship. As I previously stated, there are a great deal of inconsistencies here. On the first charge, both were so unlikely to happen any of his own children that it would be a fool's errand to worry about it. The threadbare incident was caused by the reckless yet intentional actions of his son who wore the proxy mask, be that Michael or another. Whatever the case, he even attempted, however cruelly, to remove his younger son from any of his older brother's antics. The circus baby incident occurred with the chance that is so minuscule in its likeliness that it would be unreasonable to act as if it were the inevitable outcome. To think that Elizabeth would be the only child in the room with the restaurant's main animatronic on its opening day for long enough that it would be capable of killing her is illogical at best and intentional misdirection at worst. Whichever one came second, he would have been in the throes of grief and obsession in that moment, therefore blurring his perception of logic and leaving him vulnerable to sorrow-induced accident. From his voice and sister location, we will assume for the purposes of this trial that the second was Elizabeth's death. as his voice remained script-like and numb while speaking to the board, unlike the upbeat and affable man described in the novels. Moving on, the charge of inferior animatronics. This was at first true, I shall admit. However, he quickly improved, even outperforming Henry's best by making the Funtime animatronics. This is merely character development, which my client had a license to perform at the time, prior to its revocation by Mr. Corthan and Steelwool Studios. My client's death was a simple act of desperation, as he was being chased by literal ghosts. In what world would any rational person decide to do battle with the undead after years of knowing they are real? He does not appear to have much interaction with them besides knowing that they exist, which would lead most to reasonably be cautious enough to avoid them at all costs. Concerning his invention of the springlock suits alongside Henry, the two have been shown to hold both themselves and their egos in high regard, which would have unintentionally blinded them to the many reasons why they couldn't have constructed it safely on their meager startup budget. Such complicated contraptions will take more than the intellect which they both evidently possess. Their inventions also appear to have been designed with a concept that could, in theory, be safe to use, however, one that was unavailable for the time being. The only reason the Spring Bonnie suit even failed in FNaF 3's minigame was that it had been there without maintenance nor care for what is likely several years, and the commonly accepted leaks through the roof. Finally, when he awoke as Springtrap in the Fazbear's Flight attraction, even if we are to assume he wasn't simply so dazed to follow the code of the Spring Bonnie suit, his senses and awareness would certainly be disoriented after not only years of remaining trapped in what is a cramped room at best, and what is only his own body at worst, but also suffering massively damaging injuries from the springlock failure, all of which would leave him with immense physical and mental trauma.
Thank you, Mr. Angels. Now, Mr. Ted L&D, please bring forth your first witness.
Thank you most kindly for watching, and do well to remember that this is all in good fun, and I in truth do consume the content of several of these individuals. Why, I even hope that someday we'll do these debates live. Now, if any of you have gripes with my arguments, perhaps you should debate me in the comments. I always love the thrill of debates, and I do wish to hold myself and my perception of canon to a high standard. Not too high, of course. I've literally called myself a simp here. Come on, people. Get with the program. Speaking of audience participation, if you have any examples of online individuals arguing for or against these charges, please comment them below with the hashtag RivetAngels, or send them to my Tumblr or Mastodon accounts, which will be on screen. I will post a list of lines which I humbly petition that you search for. Now, if you will excuse me, my esteemed viewers.
I have had a long summer and autumn of Five Nights at Freddy's and other fandom nonsense, and the only thing on my itinerary until December is cuddles and a candlelit dinner with my client. Have a wonderful existence, and hail fandom. Can any of you actually believe that this is over a month late now? Good lord, I need to be more punctual.